All right, you should be able to hear me now. Let's just line this up. Matthew, how you doing, mate? Lobo, what's going on? What's this? Oh, okay. I'll just give it a minute or so. Just let everybody come in. What we got? 5 people watching. Hey. Can you guys hear me all right before I start rambling like I did the other day? And I was talking for about 11 minutes or something, and then and then nobody could hear me, which was like really bad. How you doing, Reese? Oh, what's going on, man? Reese, I think I got a message from you. Is that right? Was it you? Oh, Kenny, is that you? Oh, nice one, Lobo. I'll check it. I've got so many messages, man. I'll check them in a bit. Cool. Awesome. All right, sweet. So we'll just smash out half an hour. Just have a chat. I bought the dip and it keeps dipping. Stop buying the dip. Yeah. I mean, look, this is going to get worse, guys. It's going to get worse. All right, Reese, nice one. Thanks. I'll get to it in a bit. How you doing, Reed? Yeah, no, I'm going to I'm basically just going to start off right now and just say, this is not going to stop, right? Obviously we're going to put aside all the, the usual nonsense and the rhetoric and this, insanity about BlackRock and whatever else. And we're just going to be, we're going to look at things as they are, obviously a lot of people look at Bitcoin and they're like, yeah, this is the one. Who cares, man? Like, who cares? The only thing we care about is where do we buy? That's it. It's simple. Yeah. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter what we're buying. It's irrelevant. Where do we buy? And the only way for us to ascertain the right time to buy, something that at least has worked for me, for many, many years, is complete euphoria, or complete panic. And this is why I keep calling for capitulation, right? If we just look at Ethereum, for example, Ethereum does not look good. You look at the weekly chart of Ethereum, just put aside all of the SEC, Ethereum Foundation, the potential fraud that's there, if there is any, and all of this stuff that gets circled around, crypto Twitter and some other places, and just focus on, the reality of what we're seeing, right? There's a lot of metrics that we can measure in the market. For example, many of you know that I've been talking about, there's a liquidity problem, within crypto. I've been talking about this for the last year and a half, right? Almost 2 years. For me, it was obvious. You don't need to measure any metrics to do that. For those of you that do watch Nicholas Merton's stuff, Data Dash's videos, he just posted a video on this, on liquidity, right? And he's talking about stablecoin liquidity. Definitely worth a watch, 100%. Like, I really like Nicholas. And to be honest, it'd be great if I could, get on a stream with him and just have a chat, because he's one of the very, very rare individuals, right, that is in line with the way that I think and at least talks a lot of sense. Having said that, I was talking about this 2 years ago, right? Obviously, it's not an ego trip. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it was obvious. So we have to look at the obvious. Yeah, we've got to look at the obvious metrics, the ones that are completely devoid, of what we're seeing in terms of Twitter and in terms of what's being posted and all of this stuff, and just be realistic. And the realism is there is nothing, to my mind, at least, that gives me any confidence other than the £10 that I bought on Bitcoin, which was a laugh, obviously. There's nothing that gives me the conviction or the confidence to buy cryptocurrency right now, right? There just isn't. There's this kind of duality within cryptocurrency, amongst investors, yeah, and then it splits again. So we're talking about, there's obviously the majority of people lose money in crypto, just like they do in any asset class or any market. And you'll always find a very small group of individuals from a percentage point of view that will, take up most of the profit or take most of the money or profit from crypto, more than everybody else, right? I'm not talking about that duality, right? I'm talking about in the sense of there is, if you take two sets of investors and they're both pretty good, right? One set of investors will use this opportunity because they believe everything is cheap, right? And then another set of investors will not use this opportunity because they're not looking at price and saying, well, it looks cheap. They're looking at the overall holistic view and saying, yeah, this is not good, right? So I had a back and forth on Twitter with somebody that I know recently, the usual buy the dip DCA, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I was like, I'd rather buy, I'll go back to Bitcoin. I'd rather buy down here, around about, between 14,000 and 11,655, all the stuff that I normally say. And my reasoning was, I'm willing to take that gamble that it's going to go down there instead of buying it here on the off chance that it's going to go up. So the duality is, do I buy it now? We'll use Bitcoin. Do I buy Bitcoin now out of fear that I'm going to miss the move? Or do I take a gamble? Yeah. And I'll explain how to reduce the odds of that gamble going against you. So do I take the gamble and wait for Bitcoin to drop, which it may never do? So I would rather take the gamble, as you guys know. But the reason that we reduce the odds of that gamble not working, right, is we have some things that we pay attention to. I believe there's a huge liquidity problem within cryptocurrency. Nothing is going to solve that other than capitulation, right? And then obviously money coming back into crypto. There's no confidence right now. People don't want to be putting their money into crypto. The only people that are putting their money into crypto are the people that are already in crypto. Yeah. Remember that. Remember what I've just said. The only people investing in crypto are the people who are already invested in crypto. There's a finite amount of money, right? So let's go back to reducing these odds, or at least increasing the odds that the gamble pays off, right? So when I look at Bitcoin like this, I'm like, okay, I believe that Bitcoin is going to go down to, 14K. I want to use the other chart because it's clearer. I believe that Bitcoin is going to end up down here, right? And in terms of increasing the odds, I've got this liquidity issue. I know it's there. I'm seeing no indication that price wants to go higher. I'm looking at altcoins. They're not interested, right? I talk to people that are already invested in crypto. They're not interested. I talk to large institutional players, not a lot, a few. They're not interested, right? So we're slowly increasing the odds that this gamble is going to pay off, right? And that's what this is. That's what this will always be about. It will be about, and I'll use Swissborg, for example, CHSB. It's really cheap down here. Yeah. 11 cents is really cheap if you bought up here. Yeah. If you're considering buying down here, yeah, then it's not cheap. For you, here would be cheap. 6 cents, 5 cents, 2 cents, 1 cent. This is your cheap. This is only cheap because people who are in a dollar above, who are in a dollar above, $2, 150, 140, etc. It's cheap, man. It's like I bought at 130, for example. Not me. I'm just saying. I bought at 130, so 13 cents is like really cheap for me. But somebody considering buying CHSB now, the dynamic changes, because then it becomes, well, it's not cheap for me. Cheap for me would be 2 cents, 3 cents, 4 cents, and so on. And then you've got to look at the bigger picture. Obviously I'm on Swissborg, so I use them. Does Swissborg look like it's in good shape? Blah blah blah. You do all the usual, sort of due diligence, whatever. And this is what it's really about. It's about using, common sense, logical thinking to put yourself on the right side of the markets when it makes sense. Yeah. So for me, it's just a waiting game. Let me see if there's any questions. I bought some gold and silver instead. Nice. Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, I've started buying a little bit more gold, a little bit more silver. More silver than gold, to be honest, because I think silver's got a little bit more upside. I've got no intention of selling it, obviously, but if it goes up, there'll be plenty of chances to make money, but there's only going to be 1 or 2 chances to make massive profits in our lifetime when markets, awareness, and capital all coincide. And I agree with that, Lobo. This is absolutely true. And this is part of the problem. You know, this obviously we know that markets are driven on emotion, right? But there's two sets of emotion. You know, you've got retail emotion, and then you've got institutional investors emotion, you know, which is very, very mature. Yeah. So institutional investors, big players, venture capitalists, these people that are, you know, that have basically just rinsed the cryptocurrency market and just raped it, basically. These institutional players, their emotions are very in check. Their emotions are very on point, and their emotions are very under control. Retail investor emotion isn't. Yeah, it's completely all over the place. You know, and this is what causes a problem, because people invest with their emotions. How you doing, George? You right? George Bear, Yorgo Cesar. Yeah, so investor emotion, retail investor emotion, that's the key, you know, keeping that under control. And let's just say it like it is, guys. I'm either going to be right or I'm either going to be wrong, you know. I think what I like about, you know, our group, you know, and our thinking is that almost all of you, in fact, if not all of you, you know, who are in the invested intelligence, you know, Discord and have been following me around for, you know, for a while, we all kind of understand our own way of investing and thinking, you know, and we bounce ideas off each other, you know, and I prefer that, because I don't want a situation where people are like, well, you said, you know. But yeah, I'm waiting, man. I'm not touching nothing. And there you go. Awesome. There you go. To be fair, I wish I was in Thessaloniki right now. You know what I mean? My message was regarding a potential Swissborg analysis and understanding its response at this level. Yeah, all right. Is that what you asked me? Let me go and take a look. If you plan to innovate Swissborg analysis. Yeah, okay. So let's go over to CHSB. And I'll talk about Swissborg as a whole first, right? It might be a little bit boring just kind of staring at this chart, but let me talk a little bit about Swissborg. I think one of the key factors with Swissborg is that, and obviously I've been invested in Swissborg for quite some time, so you know, maybe I'm slightly biased, but I'll try and stay neutral and objective. But one of the advantages of Swissborg is that it's not in the US, and it never was, and it never has been. It probably never will be. Yeah, nice one there. You know, it probably never will be, and that's kind of a head start already, right? I know there's obviously regulation that's going to be coming sort of Europe wide, and I know that there's going to be some changes and a few things here and there, you know. But ultimately, I think that the guys over at Swissborg are very smart. I think they have. I think they've positioned themselves pretty well. If anything was going to happen, it would have happened by now. That's the point I'm trying to make, you know. And I'm looking at this purely from an objective point of view. You know, if I was an investor looking at, you know, at Swissborg, I would be happy with what I see. You know, it could all go tits up. Who knows, right? This is any cryptocurrency, but you know, as an exchange and what they're doing and the way that they're doing it, you know, I'm comfortable and I'm happy with them. Obviously, we look at something like CHSB, which is a utility token. Yeah, that's going to be very important moving forward. Remember the words that I've just said. CHSB is a utility token, right? So because CHSB, you know, is obviously following the broader market, you know, there's one of these kind of situations where it's, do we just keep buying CHSB because we like Swissborg? No, I don't agree with that. I think that's an incorrect way of looking at it, right? I think you should treat CHSB the same as any other asset. You know, if you're going to purchase CHSB, you're purchasing it because you believe, you know, in the technicals, the analysis, what your chart is telling you, and so on, right? Now, obviously, if you're buying CHSB for longevity and you believe, okay, over a longer period of time, I believe Swissborg are going to be introducing ways, you know, to really benefit CHSB holders, you know, then fair enough. Obviously, they had the yield for many, many years, that they've stopped that now. but they're always looking, for new ways to try to incorporate, lots of different things, and they do think of the CHSB token as a central, tenant of all of this. There's some big players, that have been holding CHSB literally from ICO, pre-ICO and whatnot. So if anybody wants to sell, obviously they can, but you'll find the same with CHSB as you've seen pretty much in any other asset class in the world, in existence, that ever has been or will be. The same metrics, in terms of emotional behavior, of investors is exactly the same on CHSB as it has been on everything else. Fear and greed, it's the same thing. Price goes up, people get excited, and people exit because of what they can buy with that money. Yeah, think about that. People don't exit the market. So if somebody's in profit, you buy, and we'll go over to the chart. So if you buy CHSB, say down here at 30 cents, and it rips to the upside to $1, right? You're in profit, and you look at that profit and you're like, what can I do with that profit? Every decision that you're making going forward is based on the profit, the amount, the variables of that amount. Can I use it for this? Can I use it for that? If you're up a pound, literally £1, you really don't care because there's nothing you can do with that pound. But if you're up 20 grand, you're like, 20 grand's a decent amount of money. Then you think about the infinite number of ways in which that 20,000 can be used, and how people think. Maybe, somebody who's invested in CHSB and they're up £20,000, haven't had a holiday for 10 years because they've been, struggling. And that 20,000 is going to give them a decent holiday. Not everybody invests for the long term. In fact, I think 90% of people who invest, are investing just out of, I don't want to say ignorance, but just they're not really investing with any, with a plan. They're just investing for the sake of investing. They're looking to make a bit of money, and they don't really care. There's only a very small group of, people from a percentage point of view that invest with a plan, that invest for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years, that are thinking about generational wealth or whatever, if that's even possible now. So going back to Swissborg, yeah, I think it's a great company. I think what they're doing is, solid. And at the end of the day, just like anything else within cryptocurrency, if it goes tits up, it is what it is. I'm prepared to take that gamble. Obviously, we did hit that 11. You guys know that I've been waiting forever for that 11. And yeah, I was happy with that. Obviously, picked up some more CHSB. And I do believe that we could go lower, obviously, with everything that's happening within the markets. If you just go back to Bitcoin for a second, even just a drop from where we currently are now, around about 25.5 to 23, and start to drive into this imbalance. As soon as it hits this, it should respond down here at 22 to 23. But even that $2,500, $3,000 drop, will be enough to put CHSB around about 10 cents to 9 cents again. So I do believe there's more downside. I'm not seeing any chart that even looks remotely nice. That looks disgusting. Yeah. And I'm happy that it looks disgusting because I really don't like Ethereum. Right. And that's not to say that Ethereum, and I'll just quickly clear this up as well. When I say I don't like Ethereum, it's because they moved from proof of work to proof of stake. And they did that because they're skanks. They weren't thinking about, making Ethereum better. They were doing that because it's easier to manipulate. All right. So once again, greed, power, greed. But at the end of the day, everything is pretty much EMV. Everything's written to be EMV compatible. So we have to respect that because that is, a fundamental part of cryptocurrency. But this does not look good. I'm not really a fan of trend lines, but I don't know. Let's stick one on here. I know people are fond of doing these types of things, aren't they? If we're going to use this, that looks so annoying. But if we're going to use this, for example, even a run to around about 14, is probably there. I mean, obviously, you guys know that I'm expecting 750 on this all the way down here. This has been on my chart forever. And it's and I did say 750, not 735. That was the the original target, and I believe we'll get there. And if we just look at even some dodgy meme coin like Doge, you know, this is manipulation, 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 and so on. If you look at Pepe, I can't stand this thing. I really can't stand this thing. Everything that this, just everything that it represents, I can't stand it. This is just literally, pump, take everybody's money, dump. That's it. Pump, take everybody's money, dump. And this is going to continue bleeding as well. And I just wanted to throw a few meme coins in there. That's all. That's why I was doing that. Copper's popping just a little, something to keep an eye on. Solana dying, right? Matic dying. Arb dying. Algo, it's just dying. Everything's dying right now. All right. So don't fall into the trap of just saying, well, it's so cheap, so I'm just going to buy it, because if I buy it now, the next time it goes to all-time high, trust me, all these conversations, man, people don't look at the conditions that created these moves. There were a lot of things going on, a lot of money being given to people freely, in a lot of economies around the world. People had free reign to pretty much do whatever they wanted. Let's just be honest, right? There's people that basically, we're talking about the UK now, that would have taken bounce back loans and some of these other loans, use that money for whatever they wanted to use it for, and I'm sure some of that money found its way, into the, investment world, cryptocurrency, stock market, whatever, and they just don't pay it back, and people don't know, what do you mean I have to pay it back? No, they don't. People don't have to pay that back. There's loads of people that basically filed insolvency, and they haven't paid that back. that hurts the economy. So we have to remember, the conditions that created these moves, very specific conditions. Are we seeing those conditions? And if we're being really, really honest with ourselves, if we just go back to Bitcoin for a second, do we have any idea the amount of money that needs to come into Bitcoin for this thing to run 170%? A spot ETF ain't going to do that. And it's not even a spot ETF. I was looking into that. Somebody asked me to talk about this, in terms of BlackRock. BlackRock is a giant, right? They manipulate the markets all the time. And obviously they've got a lot of assets under management. They pretty much own everything in the world, or at least some percentage of everything in the world. And as such, they will find a way to basically part people with their Bitcoin. That's what's going to happen. BlackRock is going to find a way to part people with their Bitcoin. We're not talking about Bitcoin maxis because they see it, right? We're talking about the general, the general populace, the general investor, the retail investor, the investors that aren't really paying much attention, right? So BlackRock will find a way. They'll say, "Oh, invest in us, and we'll do this," and they'll I'm almost guaranteed, in saying what I'm about to say now, I honestly believe that BlackRock will find a way to give people the incentive to invest with them, because they're trusted, because they can give you a good return on your investment, and so on. And all of that money will go piling into BlackRock, and people will be forced emotionally. I don't say forced. They'll be blindsided, basically, and there'll be a lot of retail investors that'll give up their Bitcoin. That will give up their Bitcoin and basically invest in BlackRock using fiat currency. So that's my take on BlackRock. I don't think it's here, to do good. I think they're just like every other institution that's looking to basically take everybody out of the equation, Sorry if you can hear the dogs. It's next door. So open for questions, obviously, as always. I'm just scanning through things. Rate announcement didn't really do much. We'll just take a look at the dollar. This is, 100 still on the cards. I did mention this last time that it came close. It did get into the hundreds, which is fine, but I still want to see parity. To be honest, I think it gets there. What's oil saying? As to be expected. And I'll just show you quickly. So this is gold. I need to go to the monthly chart for this. So this is gold. Obviously, gold is doing pretty well, and I believe that gold will continue to maintain its strength for now, if not, sort of stagnate up here. But regardless, I think it's going to be okay. And then obviously silver, which is poor man's gold, as they say. Just looking at the way that this is setting up, if we do a very quick analysis here, so you can see we've just had a pickup of a primary liquidity pool. This is a bit deeper, this one, but there's something that we need to pay attention to, which is basically this right here. It's a hot spot. If it gets back through this, the likelihood that this starts to run and hits this level, which is basically right here again. Let me line this up. It's quite likely 25.85 may get a little bit of a pop towards sort of 28, but I think 25. I think we're running, at least another $1, $1.50, maybe $2 on silver. So yeah, it may take some time, but it's just something I'm keeping an eye on. And I'm just buying 20 to 50 grams at a time. And then when I've got a little bit of money set aside, I'll just start, picking up a little bit more gold as well. But I don't want to go too crazy because I want to have some money, set aside. I've got money set aside to start to put back into the cryptocurrency market. And in terms of what I'm looking at, obviously, I don't just look at something like Matic and say, Matic is great, Polygon, Disney, this, that, whatever. I'm just going to buy Matic, because it's cheap down here. I don't want to do that. Like if you look at the ratio between sort of Bitcoin and everything else, in most respects, I can't believe I'm actually going to say this, but in most respects, it's better to just buy Bitcoin, and just take that from a percentage point of view. It will move, just as much. A lot of people will look at, something like Matic is so low, it's so cheap. If it doubles, if it goes to $1, but you need, you need money going into Matic to, for that to happen. You're more likely to get that, on Bitcoin, than you would be on Matic, for example. So, for me, outside of Matic, obviously BNB, something that I'm paying attention to very closely. But again, I do believe that BNB's got a little bit more downside. I'm saying a little bit, and it's got a lot more downside, to be fair. We're gonna have to use the weekly. As I was saying in my recent tweet, the longer it stays down here and the less the reaction and lethargy and so on, it means it's just, we're seeing no relief here whatsoever. This is an impulse. It's hit this level. It makes sense that it's hit this level, and it makes sense that it's slowing down at this level, and that it's basically just bounced back and forth. But the chart is basically a reflection of what's happening within cryptocurrency. And I'm telling you, and I'll say it again, and I'm going to keep banging on about this. There is a liquidity problem within cryptocurrency. This is not going to go away. Stable coins are going to start taking a hit as well. We're seeing fine cracks here and there. Nothing to shout home about at the moment. But as that money starts to flow out of stable coins, a lot of it's gone into, what was I watching the other day? A lot of it's gone into Tether. And obviously Tether is, is a big player, but do they have the reserves? This is the other thing. They won't let people audit them and this and that. So, and then you look at XRP and you're like, well, XRP isn't really, these Hinman emails. Everyone's like, Hinman emails and this and that, and it's going to show this and it's going to show that. And I was like, no, it's probably going to pop a little bit, which it did, and there's going to be no follow through because the underlying problem is still there. It's like going to a doctor, and getting pills for pain instead of pills for a solution to the pain, to solve the problem. The underlying problem is still there, the SEC. The SEC is a problem. Regardless of whether Ripple is right and the SEC is wrong, or whether the SEC is right and Ripple is wrong, the problem still remains. And because the problem still remains, you're always going to end up a situation where people will knee-jerk reaction into XRP and then basically knee-jerk out, and they're just used as exit liquidity, because there's a lot of large players, obviously, that pay attention to all of this. People make a living, studying and watching XRP, for moments like this. You can literally make an entire career, out of just one thing like XRP, and take advantage, of these movements that happen, just like people try to take advantage of, buyback and burns, for example. So the point being, I was just showing, again, just more evidence and, as to why I have so much confidence, that the markets simply aren't ready to go up right now. So let me go over to the chat. Ooh, questions coming in thick and fast. Let's have a look here. 1 second, guys. My son's calling me. 1 sec. All right, guys. Yeah, sorry, I'm back. Niels van Gel. Binance to quit Netherlands after failing to acquire license. Any thought about this? Yeah, sure. So Binance to quit. You guys know me, man. I don't. If something doesn't make sense in my head, I won't open my mouth until it does. 1 second. Binance. Yeah, it's because you used the word quit. That's what it was. I was like, quit. Sorry. I know you probably. I know English isn't probably your first language, but not to say there's anything wrong with your message. It was just the word quit. Binance said that it can no longer serve Dutch clients as unable to register as a virtual asset service provider with the Dutch regulator. Yeah, so starting on Friday. Okay, so yeah, continuation. The onslaught on Binance, and I think this is going to continue around the world, because what you'll find is a lot of countries now, they will try to distance themselves, from something that they know is going to hurt them further down the line. So a regulator, they will look to the US, for example. So the Dutch regulators will look at the SEC and say, okay, look, we really don't want to piss off the SEC, right? Because you've got to remember, these regulators, they all talk to each other. They're all in bed with each other, so when something like the SEC goes after Binance, and there's, they really start to go, deep into it, a lot of regulators around the world will fall in line, for two reasons. One, because they don't want to piss off the SEC, and two, because they are all in bed together. Yeah. So make no mistake about this. Regulators around the world, are working together for a common goal, right? Whatever that common goal is. Something it's CBDC, something it's total control. A lot of people think it's the Great Reset. Like, I really don't care what it is. What I care about is, what do we do about it? Yeah. You look at the variables. I have my own opinions and views on a lot of different things, obviously, as you guys know, but they're my views and opinions, and talking about them isn't going to help any of you lot. It's not going to help me find the right moment to buy. So when we look at something like this with Binance, I expect this to continue, in more countries as well. I'd start to worry with Binance. I would start to worry a little bit if it becomes a challenge for the UK. All right, I know there's some issues already with withdrawals, and then they cancelled, and then they stopped withdrawals, and then they said it was okay, and then there was an issue with Barclays, and there was a lot of stuff going on in, obviously, NatWest and whatnot. But if Binance basically just ceases to exist in the UK, that would be a problem for me, because the UK, is a big player in terms of finance, if not the player, when it comes to international finance. A lot of people, in countries around the world, especially Americans, they refuse to accept that, but it is a fact. It's just a fact. It's a fact. London is the financial capital of the world. And when I say that, I'm not talking about what you think I'm talking about. Many misunderstand that and say, no, it's not, it's China, or no, it's not, it's America. Anyway, we won't go into it. The point is, London controls a lot of the money in the world. So if Binance is an issue over here, if it really becomes a problem, then I'd be a little bit concerned. One of my friends want chart Peach Folio on PooCoin. He thinks Peach Folio, PCHF. Peach Folio. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. It just looks like another pump and dump, just like everything else. There's literally no volume on this. 96k liquidity pool. Holders 4,003. Okay. I mean, that's not bad, to be honest. The holders list isn't too bad. It would require quite a lot of people to sell, to join the LP. So that's not too bad. The LP ratio or holder to LP ratio is actually okay. With obviously this is pancake swap, and this is, I'm assuming, the contract. Yes, it is. This is the burn or the dead wallet, and then obviously the top bag holder, which if it's the team, this is even better. So yeah, like in that respect, it's fine. I have no idea what this is. Like in terms of the chart, forget it. There is absolutely nothing. There's nothing on this that I can even remotely come close to saying, yep, it looks okay. It doesn't. It just looks like it's just going to keep going down. If nothing happens, nobody sells, nobody buys, it will still go down purely based on Binance. You know, so it's something to consider. What's going on, Money Mike? Appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, no worries, Niels. So yeah, all in all, that's pretty much it. You know, I just wanted to kind of come on. There's you know, there's really no reason for me to go any deeper into what I've discussed. You know, and since we've been talking, you know, you can see there's no real oomph behind anything that we're seeing within cryptocurrency. It's literally being driven. Just every time you look at Bitcoin, so do this. Every time you look at Bitcoin, just say to yourself, you know, if it goes up, what's the driving force behind that? Yeah. And if it's a big one, then fair enough. But if you can't find any real reason that Bitcoin's going up, and I know there's people that, you know, are new to investing and everything else, but you've only got to look around you. The more hype, the worse it is. Yeah. Just think about it like that. As a general rule of thumb, the more hype, the worse it is. So with that said, time is it? I'm going to shoot. I just thought, you know, like I said, I just wanted to pop on, just do a quick, I mean, institutionally, is there a way we can research how big money comes into a project? Is there a way that we can research how big money comes into a project? Well, my answer is probably not going to be one that's going to help you, to be honest. This is going to be a really weird thing for me to say, but because of my experience and what I've done over the years, and the tape reading, and the just the incessant study and so on of price, you know, L2s. When I used to trade with L2 data, tape reading, you know, studying market makers, all of this stuff, and then obviously the Forex market and getting deep into that, you know, working with, you know, sitting side by side with traders who, you know, move big money and so on. I see it in the chart. You know, I actually annoy a lot of people because I can't explain sometimes the things that I say. Like, I understand them fundamentally. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of metrics we can look at. We've said this before. You know, on-chain data is actually not too bad. You can look at on-chain data. You know, if you really want to get deep into it, you know, go to the project, look at the way that money's coming in and out of that project. It is, you know, time-consuming, and it's quite mind-numbing, to be honest, to do that. But obviously, there's a lot of places where you can look online to see money, you know, money coming in and money coming out. You know, you've got book maps, you've got you know, we've and that works with cryptocurrency. You've got places like discuss some reversals, yeah, impulses. Everything, Reese, is impulses. Everything. If you really understand an impulse, right, then you can work out everything else, because you've got to understand when you see an impulse, when you see price impulsing, so bang, it just goes, right? Up or down, it doesn't matter. It has to be reaching for something. Yeah. Like, I honestly, when I talk to people now, if anybody doesn't understand, sorry, I said that wrong. If anybody starts arguing with me about what I'm going to say, I'll just walk away. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I just can't be bothered, because it's one of those, if you can't see it, then it's pointless me trying to explain it to you, because you're never going to see it, right? An impulse has to be reaching for something. So if price goes from $1 to $2, it's reaching for something. Yeah. You could say it's reaching for $2. Great. But it's reaching, it's going in, it's just moving up into something, right? We look at that and say, price is impulsing into a known liquidity pool. Where is it? Yeah. We look for the reaction. So it impulses, it keeps going, it stops. That's where the LP is. It has to be. There has to be liquidity there. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean a liquidity pool. It doesn't mean a liquidity pool full of orders. It doesn't mean that, like, whichever which way you look at it, it's liquidity. It has to be liquidity, because price wouldn't stop there unless there was somebody selling or somebody fulfilling orders, or doing distribution or accumulation. Yeah, this is just the markets. That's how they are. Even manipulated markets still have to have liquidity. So if price is going up and down because of market makers trying to make the market on a particular asset class, that has to happen by an execution of orders. Yeah, whether they're fake, whether they're real, whether it's being manipulated, it doesn't matter. It still has to be facilitated. It has to be a buy and a sell, which means there has to be liquidity there. So if you understand impulses right, then you can start to figure out, well, okay, if price is running in, to a liquidity pool, what's the reaction there? You start to study the reactions, and at this point, remove the emotion, because people like impulse, I missed the move. You've lost straight away. Forget it. You're done. Yeah, you're never going to see it. You're wasting your time. But if it impulses and you say, okay, I'm going to watch. All right, it's starting to slow down. Okay, I'll do it with a chart. Okay, impulse, boom. It's going. I'm watching. It stops. Okay. Started to slow down. Right. There has to be liquidity, right? There has to be. So you start to look, okay, what's it going into? I know an area where we expect there to be liquidity. Okay, fine. All right. So it impulses into there and it starts to slow down. It impulses again. Okay, great. What do you do with this information? That's the experience side of things. Okay. You're like, okay, I want to see this stabilize. I want to see some real signs. You start to drop down to the lower time frames. You start to break it down. What does it really look like? And you see the initial impulse broken down on a 4-hour chart was an impulse, stabilization, stabilization, impulse. By this time, we've already identified the LP here. So we know, there's a good, and I'm purely talking about trading here, there's a good 6-7% to be made there, right? Because it's going to impulse into this LP almost always, right? This is not financial advice, and it's not trading advice, obviously. Starts to slow down, drops, negation, drops again, done. We're not going back above this high. Yeah. Now, having the confidence to say that and stick to it, that's where it's really at. Yeah. It's just, it impulsed, slowed down, dropped, reversed. Okay, great. Should keep going. Didn't. Impulse to the downside, takes out this low, starts to drive into this imbalance, hits this LP, goes straight through, that doesn't even stop, straight through, that doesn't even stop. And then it rips to the upside again. And at this point, as it's ripping up, I am not expecting this, these highs to be taken. Why? Because we're in an LP. Very unlikely that it's going to go straight through this LP. If it does, great. Now I know 100% confidence that we're probably going to go from 31,500 or so to around about 34. Yeah? Because all of this has happened and it's shown me. The manipulation, the traps, the retail traps, the trapping traders long, the trapping traders short, basically chewing up everybody to finally go and do that original move. Now, to get to that point, you may lose one trade, but at least you're not losing 50 in all of this. Yeah. And then obviously bleed. There's your second sign. Impulse to the upside, just from there to there. Negation, starts to slow down. Impulse rips up and then slowly starts to bleed. So now I'm very confident. Yeah, very confident that we are probably going to end up doing something like that. May take a little bit of time, but we're probably going to end up doing something like that. Why? Because it's eaten into this LP over here as well. It's pretty much gone. There's nothing there. Yeah. It's tapped into this, almost no response, rebalance, drop. It'll eat into all of that. And then what's left? Straight down here, 22.5. And obviously I see all of this very, very quickly. And I do drive a lot of people crazy, but yeah, I hope that helps. All right. So I'll leave the video there. And yeah, so impulses, sorry, Reese, that's what I was saying. Impulses, really, really understand the impulses. If you understand impulses, wait for the reaction. Where's it going to? Where's the liquidity dry ups? Where's the LP spots? All of the stuff that's in my Patreon, basically. It's literally all there. And the rest is just experience. There are some things that I do that I will never explain. Purely based on tape reading, it's almost impossible to explain. It's nothing special. It's just experience. When I used to watch the tape and you could see literally see physically with my eyes. I used to read the tape on QCOM and I would know that there was a sell coming in, right? Way before I even saw it. I'm like, now I need to be accumulating to the short side. I'd basically scale a large position as price was going up, and I just knew that price. I just knew it. I could see that order coming in, and the order would come in and it would literally stop price, and then the sell-off would happen and there'd be profit taking, or it would continue to the downside or whatever. That is very hard to explain. Very, very hard to explain. But the more you experience the markets, the more the more confidence you have to open trades and close trades. And I think as well you guys have probably been around now for a couple of years, I guess, year and a half, 2 years. So you've been listening to me. We've been talking. We've been going back and forth with a lot of different things. I've put some content out there and everything else. And there's no way that I'm going to believe, right, that in 2 years' time, anybody that's been around for that amount of time and listened to me and we've kind of been bouncing back and forth with each other, that you haven't learned something. There's no way that you guys aren't better investors. You have to be. And on that note, we'll leave it there. I'm going to shoot off. Got some things that I need to do, and I will catch up. Time is it now? Yeah, I'll be around about after sort of 5 or 6 o'clock tomorrow. I'm going to be really, really busy. But yeah, I wanted to just get something out today. I hope everybody has an absolutely awesome day. Over here in the UK, it's beautiful weather, so I'm going to try and make the most of that, and then I'll get back to work a little bit later. All right, take it easy, guys. Ciao for now.